Hello everyone. We've been hearing about the investment landscape for CreaTech businesses. So now it's great to be able to hear from one of London's CreaTech success stories. I had the great pleasure of working with Influencer on their Series A round that they completed with Puma 12 months or so ago. And so we thought it'd be great to hear from its founder Ben about their funding journey so far. So Ben, welcome.
Thanks very much, Paul. Really excited to be part of this CreaTech session. So I appreciate you having me on.
So firstly, Ben, could you tell us a bit more about Influencer?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Ben Jeffries. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Influencer. Influencer is an influencer marketing solution that essentially combines creativity and technology to build meaningful relationships between creators and brands on social media. So essentially, we work with a number of brands to help get their message and help spread awareness about them through creators' audiences. And we've worked with brands from Alibaba to Starbucks to the BBC on worldwide campaigns. And it's been a really, really exciting journey so far.
Fantastic. So I thought it would be great if you could tell us about the story behind Influencer, and in particular where you got the idea from. I think if I remember rightly, it was quite an interesting story at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly in the early days of Influencer, it was, I guess, quite an interesting story because it was actually while I was at university. And before I actually had Influencer as a business, I had a clothing company, and I was like, how can I make this clothing company the next big thing? And everyone knows that if celebrities wear your clothes, it can really amplify the brand awareness and the reach of a brand. And I managed to partner with a number of Chelsea reserve team footballers. I'm a massive Chelsea Football Club fan, to wear the clothes. I was getting a really good sort of buzz about the brand and a really good buzz on social media about this. And I kind of noticed the gap in the market where, because I was benefiting as a brand, other brands could benefit from it too. Now, why it was so interesting was because I was seeing such great results as an advertiser, and kind of, I guess you could say, a bit of like a Tinder success story here as well. My best friend at the time, a girl called Maddie, actually matched with a YouTuber named Casper Lee on Tinder, and they ended up actually going out for about 9 months. But while they were going, I was like, Maddie, you have to introduce me to Casper. I really feel like I'm understanding the advertiser side of the influencer spectrum. Meanwhile, Casper clearly understands the creator side of the spectrum. So she set us up for a coffee. She said, look, can't promise anything. It's down to you to see what you can do. We ended up having about a 3-4 hour session, just about like jumping ideas off each other into how we see influencer growing and really making influencer work. So I suppose, what makes us interesting as a company is we have those like two-sided thought processes as two founders within the company where, I really care about advertisers, Casper really cares about the creators, and it's the balance between the two which helps sets us apart.
Excellent. So Casper was your first co-investor. Who else invested in you at the start? How did you go about that process, and did you get any further investment at the start?
Yeah, so I'd say I guess before our Series A, we kind of had two different types of investment rounds. So we had like a pre-seed investment round, which was an investment round on CrowdCube. So a bit of one of those cliche stories where it was like we raised 100 grand in 24 hours, when really that's not really how CrowdCube works. It's basically spend months in advance getting the actual fundraising so that when it goes live, it's 24 hours. So we actually had 139 people invest through CrowdCube in the first investment round, and we raised £152,000 in total. And then, the next investment round was really when we started bringing in people who were able to offer us advice and be a little bit more of a tactical investors. So that's when we raised £500,000, and that's what we called our seed capital, really. And the types of investors that we brought on board then were, we had a lawyer, for example, who invested, who was instrumental in helping us out in the early days. We had someone who is kind of known for taking companies from seed to Series A as well, and offering advice and support, also invested there. And we had a number of other investors who were able to really, I guess, put us in touch with, clients, creators, and people who are genuinely just able to help influence to grow as a business. And one of the other really interesting things about that investment round too is that we also got a number of influencers to also invest in the round. So obviously having Casper from a creator perspective was great, but we managed to get other people like Joshua Peters, Joe Sugg, and all of these sort of creators to sort of really build up this kind of story about influencer, that we were by creators for creators. Really, really exciting for us.
For the seed round, you were looking for smart money then, rather than just people who would put money into the business.
100%. I mean, we actually had a couple of term sheets from kind of, I guess you could call them EIS funds or SCIS. Well, it would have been EIS funds because it was 500 grand. But yeah, we had a couple of term sheets from EIS funds. But it was kind of like, we don't really need that because it would have been so much more complex and have had so much more control. And especially during the seed round, you don't need that. You need the flexibility to be able to ultimately back yourself and back, your team to be able to help get it to the next stage. It's only really when, it gets to a stage where the money becomes millions. Should I personally believe that you then have an institutional investor, because they, come with a wealth of experience as well as a wealth of services which help you grow as a business.
Great. So in terms of this team of investors that you pulled together and who invested in the seed round, how did they help you get to the Series A?
So I'd say it was kind of split into three different groups. So there was the creator group of seed investors who helped really get our name out there within the creator community by just posting about influence naturally, but also actually introducing us to brands that they'd previously worked with, and really having creators invest into ourselves as an influencer marketing company. What that showed was a level of authenticity about us as a business. So, other creators were willing to sign up because they'd heard that these creators were involved within the company. So that was one group. Another group of investors were a group of kind of silent advisors who were able to connect us with, key brands, whether that be brands within the fashion industry or brands within the betting industry, a key variety. And that was just because of their own connections within the business world. So those ones were fantastic, obviously, in helping the revenue growth. And then the third group were more, we kind of formed this advisory, board group, I guess you could say, but they weren't official board, it was more an advisory board where we'd meet on a bi-monthly basis. And we treat it as though it was a full-on board, and we discussed key things. So that was the ones where it involved, the guy who I mentioned who helped take it from seed to Series A, the guy who's a lawyer, someone actually from Facebook as well, someone who had experience within market research, who had actually sold plenty of companies as well. And that sort of group, I guess, could, helped ensure that we were tracking against objectives that we'd set, and helped, I guess, formalize the business much more and ensure we were actually monitoring the right type of KPIs. And I think that's one of the key things as well in the early stages, is to make sure that you have the discipline and you have the focus to not take your eye off the ball, because it's so easy to in a fast-growing company, and to keep your eye on the ball on the key KPIs which can help you get to that next level.
So how do you find the Series A round overall? You mentioned that it took longer than you maybe expected. Certainly from our perspective as advisors, it can be a bit of a roller coaster, let alone for new founders. Do you have any tips for other founders who are about to undertake one?
Absolutely. I mean, 100% use a third party to go in the middle of, in the middle between yourselves and the venture capital. I mean, we used, as you said, you guys, and you were fantastic. I think, there were multiple times during, negotiations, due diligence processes, where really, I think if there hadn't been a third party in between, you would have, you generally get that feeling inside where you're like, I can't do this anymore, giving up, this is never going to actually complete or anything like that. When you have a third party in between to basically just help support you along that journey, and I guess be that balancing act between the two, it just helps ensure that you can, push forward and drive forward. And I think, for me, hands down, just have a third party in between. And some people are a little bit skeptical because third parties work in different ways. Some charge retainers, some charge success fees. But I promise you, it's absolutely worth it.
Thanks very much, Ben. It's been great to hear about your journey and how the London CreaTech scene has helped you nurture and grow your business. Definitely a business that people should keep an eye on in the future. Further information about how Moore Kingston Smith helps CreaTech businesses access grants, tax credits and finance to help them grow, please visit our booth at CogX. Our website www.moreks.co.uk, or get in touch via email.